Well, pretty significant, I should say. And in creating a marketplace for gig workers slash freelancers, the single most important, aspect has been, the platform that creates a marketplace, bringing the people who are seeking work and the people who want to employ gig workers. So such platforms are certainly, numbers in the country and overseas. Uh, you have companies like globally, if you look at, you have companies like Upwork, Freelancer, uh, Fiverr, and in India, you have companies like Apna Jobs, Work India, and Urban Companies. So all these companies offer gigs. Uh, we also know that India has been going through rapid growth of the smartphone and internet proliferation. And today we have about 800 million, people who are part of this digital revolution. So all of this makes gig work, work happen today. Yeah, platform workers, independent contractors, freelancers, gig workers are all terms that are used interchangeably. And gig work also happens in creative fields, in technology, in logistics, delivery, transportation, media, and so on. So gig work is actually used in a wide range of industries and functions. If you look at the U.S. market, which is one of the largest, about one third of the workers out of the 150 million people who are employed in some kind, one third of the workers are already gig workers, which is quite significant, which is about 15 million. And closer home, if you see, though it's very hard to estimate the number of gig workers because of the nature of work itself, we find that there are about 15 million gig workers. And this could go easily up to 90 million in the coming years. So many people could be employed. And it said that it could, add about 1.25% to our GDP. So that's how big the market is. Well, the internet commerce and the aggregator business model itself is a primary reason for, the exponential growth. Although there is, one can argue that, the millennials and the new age workers are leaning towards gig work, but that's probably something that could happen later, maybe a few years down the line. There has been an infusion of about close to 40 billion US dollars in the startup ecosystem just in the year 2021, which is the last year. And normally annual infusion of about 10 to 14 billion only happened in the previous year. So last year has seen a very, very significant boost in the in the amount of investment, and so that has triggered a number of companies which are in new age shared economy kind of companies, and they employ a lot of gig workers. So that is really the primary driver for the growth of gig work in India. Well, again, if one were to look at more developed economies, maybe Europe and even America, you'd notice that there's been a constant debate on how to empower and protect gig workers' rights. So, in the United States, in the state of California to be specific, a law was passed called AB 5 that sought to equate, full-time employees to independent contractors. Now, this was a very controversial bill, and obviously the new age companies, the shared economy companies, wouldn't just sit back on this law. So they went about actually, lobbying for an amendment, and eventually there was a amendment passed called Proposition 22 that moderated the stringency of the earlier bill. So this was an ongoing, evolving situation. And even in India, as you may have imagined, that there are a lot of, even complaints and, voice of the gig workers that are being spoken of quite regularly now. And the government is looking to actually regulate, even in the new labor code that is being proposed. There are some regulations, in the annual. And primarily, the regulations are driven towards offering minimum wages, insurance, and social security benefits for gig workers. One of the law that is under proposal and under consideration is that about 1 to 2% of these companies' revenues should be set aside to create a welfare fund. So these are some of the things that we observe happening in terms of regulation. Well, all of these, forms of employment will remain. When I mean all of these, I would say full-time employment, temp workers, and gig workers. All of these formats will continue to, I would say, coexist. Like I said, there is always, a thought that millennials would prefer gig work and shun, full-time employment. But that is still a debate. Some individuals may choose, gig work at certain, life stages, or even do moonlighting, which is nothing but having multiple jobs at the same time. So these trends one may find, ongoingly. And I think companies do benefit also by this access to flexible workforce. Instead of having a number of people on their payroll all the time, they could have access to talent that wants to also be on a short-term basis, or you call it gig. So I see it as a win-win situation for both.